So it says the graph below shows the total distance in miles traveled by a towboat over time in hours. Which statement best describes the meaning of the coordinates of F? So that's the point right there. Okay, so what does that point mean? Based on what we did yesterday, what does that point mean? So when X is 1, right, so that would be 1 hour, Y looks like 5.25, and that is miles. So what does that mean? So A says it shows the unit rate of the graph in hours per mile. B, it shows the unit rate of the graph in miles per hour. C, it shows the time in hours it takes the towboat to travel 1 mile. Well, we know that's not true because there's no 1 mile there. D says it shows the distance traveled in miles by the towboat for 2.5 hours. Well, we already said that that's not right. So it either has to be A or B. And remember, the constant rate is Y divided by X. So if Y is miles and X is hour, it is represented in miles per hour. So it has to be B. Okay, so remember, guys, just like I'm explaining it to you, I expect to see this written down when you submit this bell ringer. All right, so you should be on page 279. 279, and it is applying two-step inequalities to solve problems. All right, so your objective is to write and solve two-step inequalities for real-world scenarios. So a population study was performed to find the number of deer in 2 parks. The study found that twice, so there's that key word, the number of deer in Maple Park is at least 20 more than the number of deer in South Park. Write an expression to represent the difference between twice the number of deer in Maple Park and the number of deer in South Park. Okay? So twice the number means 2x. Twice, whatever the number is. Okay? So it says a population study was formed to find the number of deer in 2 parks. The study found that twice the number of deer in Maple Park is at least 20 more than the number of deer in Smith Park. The study found that there are 50 deer in Smith Park. Okay, so 2x minus 50. Okay, because that's what's in Smith Park. There are 50 deer in Smith Park. So it says find the difference between twice the number of deer in Maple Park and the number of deer in Smith Park. So 2x minus 50. All right, so it says, what do you know is true about the difference? The difference is greater than or equal to 20, because that's what it says. At least more than the number. So we're going to write, and if you look down here, it kind of already told us what it was going to be, right? All right, so we're just going to rewrite the expression down here. So 2x minus 50 is greater than or equal to 20. All right. All right, so just like when we solve an equation, we're going to do the inverse of subtraction, so we're going to add 50. So when I add 50, this goes away, so it leaves me with 2x, and then 20 plus 50 leaves me with 70. So this is, remember, 2 times x, so the inverse is to divide. So we're going to divide by 2. That goes away. So x is greater than or equal to 35. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to do attendance real quick. Okay, so we're going to graph it. So if you remember, if it is greater than or equal to or less than and equal to, my circle is going to be a solid. Okay, and a closed circle is what they call that. See Kamari. I do not see Octavian. Since it reads x is greater than, we are going to go in that direction. Okay, so it says, do the values make sense? So what that means is, can 35 and a half, can 36 and a half, can 37 and a half, can all of that make sense? That's what it's asking. Sorry, somebody put something in the chat. So we are talking what? Deer, right? So correct, Jacoby. We can't have 35 and a half deer. So all values do not make sense. All values, I'm running out of things. Values do not make sense. And the reason is because we cannot have half a deer. It doesn't make sense. All right. So it says, what does the solution of the inequality represent in the problem? So in Maple Park, there are at least 35 deer. Can there be more? Yes, but there are at least 35 deer. Okay? All right, so let's move. Do I need to pause for a second for people to copy? All right, I don't hear anybody, so I'm going to move on. All right, number 2. Rosanna and Asia collect stamps. The number of stamps Rosanna has is 7 more than 3 times the number of stamps that Asia has. Rosanna has less than 85 stamps. How many stamps can Asia have? Asia has X stamps. Write an expression to represent how many stamps Rosanna has. All right, so we're going to underline. Rosanna has 7 more than 3 times the number of stamps that Asia has. So we don't know Asia. So we're going to let X be Asia. But we know Rosanna has 3 times times Asia plus 7 more. So it says Asia has X stamps, which we said. Write an expression to represent Rosanna. So Rosanna is 3X plus 7. So it says, what do you know about the number of stamps Rosanna has in her collection? So Rosanna has more or less stamps than 85. So Rosanna has less stamps than 85. Because that's what it says. Rosanna has less than 85 stamps. It tells me that. All right, so we're going to write the inequality, which they kind of already started for us. So 3x plus 7, not equals, but less than 85. All right, so we're going to do the inverse. So if it's plus 7, what is the inverse? This is where you guys need to chime in. What is the inverse?
Subtract 7.
Yes, we're going to subtract 7. So that goes away. So it leaves me with 3x is less than. We've kind of already did the math for you, right? 85 minus 7 is 78. Now I have 3x is less than 78. So what do I need to do? What's the inverse of multiplication?
Divide.
So divide by 3. And 3 into 78 is 2. Right? Nope. Yeah, that's right. 2 times 3 is 6. So I get 1 left over. Thank you, Jacoby. And then I bring down that 8, and 3 goes into 18 how many times? Yes, thank you. So my answer is 26. So x is less than 26. I do not have a line underneath here. So my circle is hollow. Okay, no, it's not shaded in. And x is less than, so that means I'm going to go in the less than direction. Once again, do all the values make sense? So we're talking stamps. So does it make sense to have 25.5 stamps? So you could have a half stamp, but if you're collecting stamps, do you want a half a stamp? No. So even though we could have a half, it is worth no value. So half a stamp would not make sense. Okay? So technically we could have a half, but if you're collecting something, a half a stamp is worth no value. All right, so X is less than 26, so the number of stamps that Asia has to be less than 26. All right, so number 3 is just simply taking an inequality and solving it. All right, so remember we do the reverse of orders of operations. So I'm not going to get rid of the multiplication first. I'm going to get rid of my -2. And remember, negatives and minuses are the same. So if I say -2 versus -2, it means the same thing. Okay? All right, so to get rid of the -2, what do I need to do? It already tells me. It already tells me. Yeah, I'm going to add. That's the inverse, right? So +2 plus 2. So this will go away. -2 plus 2 is 0. So it leaves me with -3b, and 13 plus 2 is 15. So now what do I need to do? It's multiplication, so what do I need to do? What's the inverse?
Division.
Yes, so I need to divide by -3. When we multiply or divide by a negative, what do I need to do? Something with the sign. What did I say we do?
You want to turn it to a... Oh, you want to turn it the other way?
Yeah, so we flip it, right? Flip the sign. Thank you, Jacoby. We flip it. So now 15 divided by -3 is -5. So B is greater than -5. So you should really always check your answer to make sure. So that means my numbers could be -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, and so on. So pick one of these numbers. So let's try 0 because that's easy, right? So -3 times 0 minus 2 is, so we substitute it back into the original. Okay? So this gives me 0 minus 2. So is -2 less than or equal to 13? So that is a true statement. So it works. True statement. Okay? Alright, so let's graph it. So B, so I'm going to rewrite this up here. So B is greater than or equal to -5. So closed or open circle?
Closed.
Yes, closed because of that line. So at -5, B is greater. So am I going right or left?
Right.
Yes. So I'm going in the greater direction. Good. All right, so the turn and talk says, is -5 a solution to the inequality? Well, let's figure it out. So -3 times -5 minus 2 less than or equal to 13. Okay. The other way I can tell is just by looking at my graph. So if it is a closed circle, it's telling me that -5 works. But we're going to try it. So this would be +15 minus 2. So I get 13 is less than or equal to 13. Is that correct? It is, yep, it is correct. So it is considered to be a true statement. A true statement. All right, number 4. Monica and Lucy are participating in a scavenger hunt. The number of items Monica found is 7 more than 1/2 the number of items Lucy found. So 7 more than 1/2. So 1/2 x plus 7. That's what that means. The number of items Monica found is at least 17. Can she find more? Yes. So greater than or equal to 17. All right. So Lucy found X items. Write an expression to represent how many items Monica found. Then complete the sentence about the number of items. So expression. So that's what they want right here, right? So 1/2 x plus 7. All right, so the number of items that Monica found, look at my symbol, is greater than or equal to 17. All right, so they gave us the equation. So we're going to do the inverse of plus 7. So what is the inverse?
Subtract 7.
Yep. So this cancels. So I get 1/2 x greater than or equal to what? 17 minus 7. 10. All right. Who remembers how do we get rid of a fraction? How do we get rid of that fraction? We multiply, I kind of already told you, we multiply by the reciprocal. So this would be 10 here, multiply by the reciprocal. So what happens is I get 2 over 2 which is 1. So 1x is greater than or equal to 10 times 2, which is 20. Okay? We didn't multiply by a negative, so we don't have to flip the sign. So open or close circle.
Close.
Yep. And it's greater, so am I going right or left?
Right.
Yep. And do the values make sense? So what are we finding? Found the items from a scavenger hunt, right? So can we find a half an item? Yeah. So only whole numbers make sense. All right. So what does the solution of the inequality mean? So Lucy found a greater than or equal to 20 items. All right, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I want you to work on those 2 check understanding problems. So 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and check them. So what do? We have a negative 51. How do I get rid of that? I should add it, right? The inverse. So this goes away. So I end up with 1/2 s less than or equal to. This is a positive and this is a positive, so I add them. So that gives me 71. I get rid of the fraction. I have to multiply by its
reciprocal.
Yes, thank you. Reciprocal. So this gives away. So I end up with S is less than or equal to, what's 71 times 2? 142. Yes. It doesn't ask me to graph it, but if I wanted to graph it, closed circle, correct? It is less than, so it would go in that direction. Okay? All right, so we have about 11 minutes. So I want you guys to go ahead and get started on your own. Okay? So right now, we will probably do problems 3 through 17. So that is page 282 and 283. Okay? So use this time wisely. If you need help on them, reach out. Do not sit there and not ask anything. Okay? You will have tomorrow to work on this as well. Okay, but get started today, please. Has 2,100 tables packed in boxes. The daily shipment is shown. After how many days will there be fewer than 1,500 tables in the warehouse? So it's not equal to, it's fewer than. So write and solve an inequality for this situation. So they start out with 2,100 they are shipping 25 tables a day. So that means they're going to subtract 25 times the amount of days. They want to know when that gets fewer than 1,500. So not equal to, but fewer than 1,500. So subtract 2,100. So that gives me, I'm going to move over here, minus 25D. So negative 25D is less than, we have a negative and a positive. So we're going to subtract, and that's going to give me negative 600. We are dividing by a negative 25, so that means I'm going to flip my symbol, and 25 divided into 600 is 24. Okay, it is an open circle because it doesn't have the line. So 24 open. D is greater than, so it goes that way. Okay, so we're talking tables, right? So it says the daily shipment is shown. After how many days will there be fewer than 1,500 tables in the warehouse? So in 24 days. So it says, do all the values make sense? What does the solution to the inequality represent in the context? So they only ship in daily increments. So we're not shipping in half days. So only whole numbers will work. Right? So only whole numbers. So what does it represent? So the number of tables will be less than 1,500 after 24 days. So it's going to take more than 24 days for them to get less than 1,500. So that's what that means. All right, we have about 1 minute, guys, 1 minute.